At the start of the 2010s, Apple and Samsung entered the courtroom in a battle over the DNA of their most well-known products, the iPhone and Galaxy lineup. This wasn't just a war over trademarks or patents, but a clash for the design of the modern world. Combined, these two devices have sold over 6 billion units since their launch in the late 2000s, generating upwards of $3.7 trillion in revenue. For perspective, that is higher than the nominal economic output of France, Canada, and Russia. As massive as those figures are, once those two giants walked out of the room, the course of the smartphone industry would change fundamentally, but in a way that went over our heads for years. As the company built up to the release of the iPhone in 2007, Apple filed a handful of patents centered on the device's basic shape in January of that year. These patents included essential features that we take for granted nowadays, such as rubber band scrolling and pinch to zoom. While we were promised the future of smartphones would look more like they came out of Star Wars or Cyberpunk, what we ultimately got were simple, plain slabs that could slip into our pockets and vibrate for notifications. But to understand why the phones of today are the same design copied and pasted, we have to take a trip down memory lane, back to the boardroom meeting that would change everything. We'll get to that in a few minutes, but first, let's take a look at the starting point of this conflict. The moment Samsung made a pivot so radical, it made Steve Jobs boil. When the iPhone released, it was, by all means, a global phenomenon. Across the United States and Canada, thousands of customers would religiously form queues lasting multiple days and overwhelming Apple and AT&T's retail stores throughout the continent. They would camp for hundreds of hours by these outlets as they counted down to when they could get their hands on the brand new phone. It had a touchscreen and a digital keyboard, the first success of its kind in the mainstream market. It was unlike the Blackberries of that time, and the hype around it was so high that in places like Arlington, Virginia, lines outside the Apple Store would easily top 100 people before the center even opened. For these week-long missions, lawn chairs were more of a necessity than an accessory.
I'm John Blackstone here at Mac World, the showcase for all things Apple. The big attraction here right now is encased in the plastic tube back there, surrounded by an admiring crowd. It's Apple's combination iPod, cell phone, and internet device. It's a sleek aluminum and stainless steel creation. A cell phone doesn't have any buttons, just a touch screen. Just the way the iPod changed the way we think of music, Apple's phone may change the way we think of cell phones. Apple executive Phil Schiller showed me how it works.
First of all, you can just start dialing any number you want with a simple touch screen pad, very easy to do. But more importantly, it syncs with your computer all of your contacts. So everyone you know is in here with all their numbers, and I can simply scroll through them and find them. Or
You can do a fast scroll there?
Sure, you can just with your finger flick up and down the list and find whoever you want to talk to. And I want to call someone, I just touch their name and I see their numbers, their home number, their work number, whatever I want to call. I just touch it and start dialing it.
With the success, Apple grew into a juggernaut in the smartphone industry, and its prime product was elevated from a futuristic BlackBerry killer to a global status symbol. As impressive as that is, the competition saw the iPhone as the formula to their commercial success. And so, just across the Pacific, the Korean electronics giant Samsung would have a go at testing that fury. The company responded with the launch of its Galaxy S series, starting with the 2010 i9000. The phone featured rounded corners with an AMOLED screen and Android 2.1 Eclair. But besides the rounded corners which we now find on almost every phone, take a look at these icons. These feature rounded edges and a creative feel. Unlike the flat 2D icons of today, apps like Maps, Camera, or Mini Diary feature slightly more complex illustrations that give you a sense of death. Just really quickly, if you're watching this video, then chances are you want to stay ahead of family and friends on the industry. If so, there's a community of 100 members just like you right here on this channel. I make deep dives like this regularly, and if you want more similar content, just click that subscribe button and help us get to our goal of over 200. Back to the video. They aren't glossy like the iPhone's icons. Those designs use a technique called skeuomorphism to achieve that look. But Samsung replicated those visual cues. Comparing these icons, the likeness is stark. If I remove the logos and showed this to the average Joe, chances are they would not know this was an Android. This was a smoking gun for Steve Jobs' vengeful wrath, and that last bit is not an exaggeration. These similarities were the foundation for Apple's claims in its first lawsuit against Samsung on April 15, 2011. Apple would file a total of 16 claims against Samsung over their infringement of the iPhone's trade dress, its design patent, and the visual design of their app icons. In the US and most other Western nations, a trade dress is what prevents the market from ballooning into a breeding ground for lookalikes. Trade dress is the core appearance of a product, just like this hood is my core appearance right now. And when trademarked, you stop other companies from copying your design for their product. The iPhone's core appearance was, as petty as it seems now, its rounded corners along with its black face and icons with rounded edges. What Samsung did was the equivalent of secretly copying someone else's homework and getting the same grade as them. And within the company, this was an open secret. Which brings us to the boardroom meeting that changed everything. A lead attorney in Apple's lawsuit by the name of Harold Michelini pointed to internal documents containing a memo by then CEO of Samsung Mobile, J.K. Shin, stating that Samsung was facing a crisis of design and figuring out how to respond to the threat of Apple's growing market share. This memo was part of a 132-page doc used as concrete evidence of Samsung's infringement, and it included a section titled Relative Evaluation Report on S1 iPhone. The document had compared the Galaxy to the iPhone and outlined the unique selling points of the latter. The outcome of the evaluation leaned into the iPhone's favor, with the company's engineers drafting plans to align the Galaxy S UI more with that of iOS. These plans were recognized internally as directions for improvement, and many of the features they designed, such as screen overlapping and even the icons on the home screen, directly resembled Apple's. I'll leave the original report by All Things D down in the description. The violations of Apple's IP were so devastating for Jobs that in his interviews with Walter Isaacson for his biography, he made his stance clear. I will spend my last dying breath if I need to, and I will spend every penny of Apple's $40 billion in the bank to right this wrong. I am going to destroy Android because it's a stolen product. I am willing to go thermonuclear war on this. The trail of lawsuits that would come after this discovery would span the globe, ending in undisclosed settlements, dismissals across Asia and Australia, and a loss for Apple in Europe, including an order by British courts for the company to publicly state that Samsung tablets did not copy the design of the iPad. Ultimately, in terms of legal consequences, not much came from these legal battles as the two companies are still business partners to this day, though I imagine there must have been some tension at first. But while the visible effects of those battles are insubstantial, the fundamental outcome is. That outcome being the weaponization of rectangles. After Apple and Samsung finished a good fight, they became tense and defensive toward each other. This was seen in the thousands of patents they filed for many features, some well known and others not so much. So, what this did was create a legal minefield that companies watching from the sidelines had to carefully navigate so they wouldn't have to enter another multi-year legal battle with either of those two. The result? Homogenization. Or, in simpler terms, the death of innovation in the global smartphone industry. The consequences of accidentally infringing on patents from these companies would become a bottleneck for product design. Companies like BlackBerry and Microsoft were limited in the options on how to pivot, partially contributing to disasters like the Windows Phone. What worked was a template you had to follow if you wish to avoid litigation and, as I described before, the plain slabs we keep in our pockets. But here comes the paradox. If the basic shape of a phone is a legal minefield, why do they all look the same? We now arrive at the climax of this arc. To protect themselves from this minefield, companies entered cross-licensing agreements with each other, shielding themselves from lawsuits, but still giving them breathing room for their products. Once cross-licensing became the new normal, Apple began to be inspired by Samsung's hardware design, and likewise, Samsung with iOS's interface. Overall, this was not a war that ended in a victory for anyone or either side, but instead a truce, a very weird one. A truce that meant turning the industry into an anti-competitive cartel decked with low-hanging fruit. One where companies still copy, just less creatively. That has given us the glass slabs we have ironically become addicted to nowadays, as much as we wish for more experimentation in our devices. Failures like the Windows Phone are a lesson not only in making good hardware, but also in designing good software. Check this video out on the failed operating systems that could have ruled the world right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.